Welcome to the Abort Ignorance Montana podcast. My name is Tanea, and I'm your host. Thank you so much for being with us today. We are super excited to have you join us for our very first episode. And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about how Abort Ignorance Montana got started, and I'm going to be sharing a little bit of my story as far about why I'm in this, how I started this organization, and we're going to get into what can you expect from this podcast as well. So first and foremost, a little bit about Abort Ignorance Montana. At this organization, we seek to educate, advocate, and heal the culture in our state surrounding abortion. So that education piece, through this podcast, we want to bring education to everyone in Montana that are just like us and don't know a ton about abortion, but they want to be in the know. And so we're going to be sharing information about what the abortion laws are, even about what abortion is, and whether it's good or not for people in our state. We're also going to be sharing advocacy tools with you, whether that's testifying at the legislature or sharing teachings so that we can know how to have an impact on this topic in our state. And that includes things like grassroots movements and sharing ideas and educating your peers. And so we're going to be sharing those tools with you as well. And then ultimately, what we want to be doing and see happen is healing our culture in our state around abortion. And so that means offering resources for men, women, and families that have experienced abortion and offering ways to heal through that experience. So we're going to have a lot of guests on our podcast. We hope to have people from the political side, the advocacy side, and the healing side. And so we're going to have stories from people who have experienced abortion themselves, and as well as people who are working to see abortion become unthinkable in our state. We're going to be hearing from people like you and me, just everyday folks in our state that have a story around this. And ultimately, we want this podcast to be a think tank for abortion in our state. And so we're going to be diving in from all sides of it to really help us all know how to think about abortion and whether we should advocate for or against it. So that's some of what you can expect from this podcast. We're excited again to be with you. We're excited that you're listening. Please subscribe so that you always get the notifications of when the podcasts go live. We're going to be posting them every first and third Wednesday of the month, so you can get those at that time. And we want to hear from you. So if you have questions on a podcast we do or a topic we talk about, or you have comments or suggestions, or there's something that you want us to go over or think through on the podcast, please email us at abortignorancemt@gmail.com. We really do want to connect with you, our listeners. So again, that's abortignorancemt@gmail.com. Email us or comment on the YouTube video. Like it, share it on Facebook, Instagram, send us a private message, whatever works for you to connect with us, but definitely do so. And again, make sure to subscribe so that you always get the notifications, and download the podcast so that you can listen to it anytime, anywhere. So with that, let's dive right into some of the story about Abort Ignorance Montana. So you know a little bit about us now, and now we're just going to talk about how we got started. So as I mentioned, my name's Tanea, and I have been with this organization. I started it in 2022. And so that was right after Roe v. Wade was overturned. But my journey with abortion and deciding that, abortion isn't something that I want people to have to experience starts before that, before Abort Ignorance Montana ever became into existence. So a little bit about me. When I was growing up, I didn't really have any teaching on abortion. I didn't really know what it was, or we didn't really talk about it or anything. I never really ran into it in school. And so I had some sense that I didn't think it was a good thing. I didn't think that it was something that I would advise someone to do. But I didn't know why, or honestly, I didn't even know that it was like a pregnancy and, a baby that is alive, and then that baby no longer exists after the pregnancy. Like, I just had no idea about any of that. And I actually had a friend in high school who she became pregnant, and she was asking me, should I get an abortion? And she was saying, I think I'm going to get an abortion. And I had no idea why, but I knew that that's not something that I wanted to encourage her to do. And so I advised her. I said, I don't think you should do that. How can we help you keep the baby? And I know it's silly, without really even knowing what I was talking about. I just had this instinct inside of me that no, don't do that. Like, that's not going to be good for you or for your baby. And she did end up having the abortion. And I remember being just really sad when I found out, because we kind of lost touch. And I found out later on that she had had that abortion. And I just remember being really sad. But again, I still didn't know what it was. So that was when I was a teenager. Fast forward to my early 20s. And that was finally when I actually had the realization of what abortion was, and that it's the killing of an innocent baby in the womb. It ends a pregnancy. And a woman is experiencing that. The baby dies. And I just was so shell-shocked of, oh my gosh, that is a really serious thing. No wonder I had that instinct inside of me that just said, I don't think that's good for women. I don't think that's good for you. And I don't think you should do it. But then I knew why. Later on in my 20s, I learned a little bit about what it was, and how the procedures are done. And I was just shocked and said, oh my goodness, okay, this is a serious thing. And I realized it's definitely not something that I think people should have to experience, and definitely not something that, we should be putting our children through. And so that's really what started my wanting to be involved on this topic. And so I, as soon as I realized what it was, I actually went and got involved with a pregnancy resource clinic, and, just did some work there. And that was really educational and enlightening, and it was great. And I carried this knowing with me that, man, I don't think that abortion's good for people. And, I should probably do something about that, but I didn't really know what to do. And honestly, I assumed that there wasn't really an issue around abortion in Montana, because again, I was very ignorant of where our culture is in our state at that time. I had no idea what was going on, and I wasn't in the know. So I, again, kind of still knew, like, okay, I want to be involved, with seeing abortion become unthinkable, but there's not really much to do because we're Montana and we probably don't even have abortion here. And so I carried just that understanding with me for a couple of years. And then I actually, when Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022, which sent abortion laws back to the state. So it just meant that states can make their own decisions about abortion. It kind of became more personal for me then. So I realized, okay, we have the ability in our state to decide for or against abortion legally. And I guess because I live here, I should probably have a say in that, since I do care about how abortion is affecting women and babies and families. Really, we're all affected. And so I went on a search, and I did a deep dive Google search as far as what our laws are in Montana around abortion. Do we even have abortion clinics? Like, I didn't know any of this. And I was fully expecting to find that we don't have any abortion clinics in our state, that abortion is illegal. I fully expected that, abortions are probably very, very rare if we even have the ability to get them here. And what I found was the opposite of that. I found, okay, we do have legal abortion in our state. We do have abortion clinics. And again, I was shell-shocked. It's like, oh my gosh, what? This has been going on all of these years. And one, I had no idea that abortion was, ending the life of a baby and harming women. But I really had no idea that we had abortion clinics in our state and that we had lots of women receiving abortions here. I had no idea. And so from that is where Abort Ignorance started. Because I felt like I needed to abort my ignorance to understand what's going on in our state. And once I became educated, then I really wanted to advocate to see men, women, and families be healed from the effects of abortion. And so that's how we got started. And part of that whole journey that was probably the most impacting for me, and really a turning point of me deciding that I have to do something. I have to at least know more about it. I have to show compassion to people that have gone through this, was really realizing that there's people that are close to me that have had abortions, and that means that they went through something, but it also means that I went through something. So back when I was first realizing what abortion was, and that it's the ending of a life, it's the ending of a pregnancy, and that affects a woman, it affects families, and it ultimately affects that baby that is no longer living. And I knew some people, like that friend in high school and some others that were very close to me that had shared with me they had an abortion. And when they shared that information, I was like kind of sad. I was, okay, I'm sorry you went through that. That's awful. But there wasn't the impact of someone just told me that someone died and there's a loss. And so once I had realized that that's what was happening in abortion, it clicked for me that those people that had shared with me, that was their experience. Again, friends that were close and other people, it was just, I realized, oh my gosh, I have people in my life that I have never met not because I experienced an abortion, but because somebody that I know did. That friend that I talked about in high school, I will never meet her child. And that just grieved me. And I realized this is so much bigger and so much further reaching than just, all the semantics around it of a woman and her doctor deciding if she's going to keep a pregnancy or whatever, people want to tell us on either side of this topic. I realized this is way bigger than that and way more personal to me, and actually way more personal to many of us. Because if someone around me has experienced abortion, that means that, they had that loss, and whether they recognize it as a loss or not, that's we can have that debate in our think tank as we keep going on this podcast. But I realized that not only is that person experiencing that loss, I also realized that I'm experiencing a loss. And then when I got into some of the statistics, when I was, doing my deep dive as far as the science side of abortion and abortion laws and all of that, I became aware that 1 in 3 women statistically have experienced an abortion. And if 1 in 3 women, so first of all, I just looked around me, said, okay, I'm sitting at the doctor's office and there's 5 women in the waiting room and myself. 1 in 3 of us have had an abortion. Statistically, like, wow, it's all around me. I go to the grocery store. I go to my kids' school. Wherever I am, I go to work. 1 in 3 women have experienced this. And so that alone was shocking to me. But then I realized, okay, if 1 in 3 women have experienced and gone through an abortion and they have the loss of that child, what about the 1 in 3 families that are related to that person? So, if it's 1 in 3 women, then that means 1 in 3 women's moms and aunts and brothers and sisters, boyfriends, dads, grandpas, uncles, whoever you are. Like, if 3 women, then you've experienced the loss of abortion in some way, whether that's friend or family, coworker, whatever it is. And that doesn't mean, again, that's statistically, it doesn't mean that like every time you're sitting in the doctor's office, 2 of the 5 women have had an abortion or whatever. But it's a lot more than we think. And it affects us directly a lot more. And so that was really where I got my start of, okay, I want to be involved. I want to help. I realized that I had to go through my own grieving process of, okay, I have experienced loss because of abortion. And that is still part of my driving force is there's all of us have experienced it in some way, and it matters. And so that's kind of why we're here. It's a little bit of my story and again, what got us started. And I quickly realized that in our state, even if we know that, we can talk about it on this podcast and say, okay, 1 in 3 women have experienced it. Statistically, that means there's someone that's not in my life because of abortion, even if I haven't had one. We can recognize that, but in Montana, we really have a high value for privacy. And that's actually what started abortion being legal in our state, was we valued a right to privacy more than we valued the right to life. And so I'm not saying we shouldn't value privacy, but I'm just saying in our state, we have decided that, a woman and her doctor should decide if she wants to have an abortion or not, and it's not my business. And so even if we're not for it, we say, like how I was in high school of, okay, I'm not for abortion. I wouldn't vote for it, I don't think, but I couldn't tell you why. Doesn't mean that I would tell somebody else not to necessarily. I mean, I did in high school, not really knowing why, but I wouldn't have been able to advocate strongly and show a lot of compassion to someone that did have a strong opinion because it wasn't my business. And I think broadly, that's how we feel in Montana, that it's not our business. And so we shouldn't be involved in it. And I guess what here at Abort Ignorance, we have a saying that's, it's the cost of ignorance is greater than the price of truth. And so that's what we're going to be diving into in future podcasts, that ignorance has a cost, and doesn't mean that we're, dumb or illiterate or anything. It just means that we just don't know. And the saying ignorance is bliss is so true, because the more that I found out about what abortion was, how it affects men, women, and families, the more I realized, okay, I have to do something, because that knowledge just brings a light to it that we can't unsee, we can't unknow it after we know it. And so that's where we get that saying from, of the cost of ignorance is greater than the price of truth, because deciding to not learn about abortion and not know what it is, not know what the laws are, not know how it affects women or men or families, or not knowing how it affects you, there's a cost there. And a cost is simply something that, it requires a payment. It causes a loss when you have a cost. And then, and so there's a cost of that. And that cost is, never knowing that we've experienced a loss. The cost is having people around us that are going through this process of having experienced abortion, and maybe they, didn't have a good experience with their abortion, but they weren't able to talk about it because it's so taboo. And there's a cost there. It's, it's harming a relationship, or it's someone's carrying that with them. And so there's a cost there. And then you balance that with the price of truth. And so, price and cost are very similar, but deciding to learn truth and deciding to gain knowledge and form our own opinions about abortion, there's a price there. And a price is something that we agree to pay based on how much we value something. And so if we agree that there is value in knowing about the topic of abortion, and again, being open-minded, looking at it from both sides, and finding like what do we as individuals really think about abortion, there's a price there. It's you're gonna have to pay something, but it depends on how much, and if we want to do that or not, depends on how much we value knowing about this topic, how much we value the life of the unborn child, how much we value the effect on families in our state of this topic. And so again, the cost of ignorance is greater than the price of truth. And so that's where we're going to be heading in the episodes to come with this podcast, is let's just dive into that and just decide for ourselves, is abortion good for men, women, and families, or is it not? And whether we think that it's none of my business and it should be between a woman and her doctor or not, let's just be open to looking at it from all angles and redeciding, reevaluating, what should we think about abortion? And so if you have questions about abortion, if you are in that boat of, I think it's wrong, but I'm not sure why, or I think it's wrong, but somebody else can do it if they want to, or maybe you think it's okay to have abortions. Like, we really want to hear from you. Send us in your questions. Tell us what would help you to make your informed decision to abort your ignorance, because we all have a certain level of it, and find the truth, and then decide for yourself, is abortion good for women, men, families in our state or not? So please send us in your questions, your comments, abortignorancemt@gmail.com, comment on YouTube, private message us on Facebook or Instagram. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your story, and just hear what you think about this topic. But I guess all collectively together, now that we know, okay, in some way, abortion affects us all, let's decide, is the cost of ignorance, is it greater than the price of truth? So We're so glad that you're with us. Again, subscribe to the podcast channel so that you can get notifications of the next episodes coming up every first and third Wednesday of the month. Download the episodes. That way you can listen to them wherever you want to, at work, on the go, wherever you are. And like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram for updates, and please send us in your questions, comments, anything you want to share, abortignorancemt@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. So thanks for joining in today for our very first episode. We are excited to have the conversation around abortion with you more and more. And please tune in for our next episode coming live soon. Thank you.